Broadband Acceleration Grant Program awards announced in Kansas. Both Oklahoma and New Mexico mark completion of broadband grant-funded projects. FCC's ability to levy fines without a jury trial being considered by the Supreme Court. Meta, huge plans to power AI with nuclear power. And Starlink getting the green light for expansion to more than 19,000 satellites. Those stories and more on This Week in the Broadband Universe. Hello, everyone, and welcome. I'm Craig Corbin. $13.5 million in broadband funding slated for distribution in Kansas. The Broadband Acceleration Grant Program, with nearly 1,100 households and businesses across 8 counties benefiting from projects undertaken by 5 broadband service providers. In total, the program will grant $85 million in support of broadband projects statewide. Among the awards, $2.9 million going to 3JL Holdings, LLC, $2.7 million going to ITC Broadband Operating, LLC, nearly $500,000 to Butler Rural Electric Cooperative Association, doing business as Velocity, more than $314,000 to the Junction Internet, and nearly $250,000 to Twin Valley Communications, Incorporated. Word this week of 2 states marking completion of their first broadband grant projects. In Oklahoma, a pair of high-speed internet expansion projects built by Dobson Fiber with service to Ouachita and Greer counties, both receiving funding from the federal, state, and local Fiscal Recovery Fund and with oversight from the Oklahoma Broadband Office, the first such projects since OBO was formed in 2022. Likewise, New Mexico's Office of Broadband Access and Expansion just wrapped up a broadband infrastructure project in rural Chavez County, marking their first completed grant-funded project. Matching funds from Penasco Valley Telephone Cooperative placed the project's total cost to just shy of $650,000. The project also becomes the first Connect New Mexico pilot program project funded via the Federal American Rescue Plan Act Capital Projects Fund. Congratulations to both Oklahoma and New Mexico. The Supreme Court, the U.S. Supreme Court, considering a landmark case that could place limits on the Federal Communication Commission's authority to impose fines and judgments without a jury trial. At issue, fines levied on Verizon, T-Mobile, and AT&T in cases with penalties totaling upwards of $200 million. Verizon had appealed a decision by the Second U.S. Circuit Court in New York, while the FCC is appealing the Fifth U.S. Circuit Court of Appeals decision to overturn fines against AT&T. In other FCC-related news, the Commission this week granted Verizon's request to a rule requiring phones to be unlocked after 60 days. Verizon contending that the unlocking rule distorted the marketplace and promoted a steady stream of phones into the black market. Big plans from Meta to use nuclear power for AI data centers. Deals involving new nuclear reactors have been announced with TerraPower, Oklo, and power producer Vistra. Power generation from 3 existing nuclear plants in Ohio and Pennsylvania will also be part of the plan. 2 reactors developed by TerraPower would generate nearly 700 megawatts of capacity within 7 years. An additional 6 reactors slated to be online by 2035. A green light from the FCC for Starlink to expand its satellite constellation by an additional 7,500 Gen 2 satellites. The SpaceX Starlink constellation fast approaching 10,000 active satellites serving 9.2 million customers around the world. And as if on cue, a SpaceX Falcon 9 lifted off from Cape Canaveral on Wednesday, carrying a payload of 29 more Starlink satellites. Elsewhere, the nation's largest power grid operator, nonprofit PJM, brings electricity to a 13-state region covering everything between Kentucky and New Jersey. Part of that footprint, Northern Virginia's Data Center Alley. Increasing demand from AI data centers now threatening to max out the grid's capacity. Increasing rates to the 67 million residents of the region, along with the growing specter of rolling blackouts, have made consumers furious, exacerbating the issue. Older power plants going offline faster than new ones can be built. A massive network outage this week affecting hundreds of thousands of Verizon customers. The company indicating that a standard update, not a cyber attack, caused the 10-hour outage, Verizon giving $20 each to the affected customers for their trouble. Streaming providers are on target to spend more than $100 billion on content this year. Netflix, Disney Plus, Prime Video, HBO Max, Paramount Plus, and Apple TV will average an increase of roughly 6% during 2026. This would mark the first time that would eclipse the $100 billion threshold in that category. And finally, ESPN's new streaming rollout has resulted in a class action lawsuit alleging that WWE and ESPN created confusion when shows moved to the new platform, leaving consumers feeling like they were paying twice to see events that were previously included in their subscriptions. The deal between WWE and ESPN worth about $325 million annually. So we'll see who has to tap out of this fight. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time on This Week in the Broadband Universe.